In the previous lectures, we discussed about the Bethe-Bloch formula. We derived this formula for the case of a heavy charged particle. But that formula which we derived is not valid for the case of light charged particles, like the electron or its antiparticle, which we call as the positron. So the Bethe-Bloch formula that we derived in the previous lectures is not valid for electron and positron. And what are the reasons that this formula is not valid for electron and positron? So the first reason is that the electron has a very small mass. The electron has a very small mass as compared to the heavy charged particle which we were discussing. So the heavy charged particles like proton, a deuteron, then an alpha particle. So these are the heavy charged particle and their mass is very large as compared to that of electron and positron. So the assumption that we made while deriving that formula, so the assumption was that heavy charged particle travels almost a straight line path inside the absorbing medium. So whenever a heavy charged particle enters an absorbing medium with a certain velocity, the heavy charged particle travels in almost a straight line path. So it is undeviated. But that is not valid for the case of electron or positron. Electron and positron are very light as compared to the heavy charged particles. So we cannot say that their path remains undeviated inside the absorbing medium. In other way, we can say that the path of the electron or positron is a bit zigzag. It is not a straight line path, but it is a zigzag motion inside the absorbing medium. So like the heavy charged particles, electrons and positrons also suffer a collisional energy loss. So this collisional energy loss we discussed in the case of heavy charged particle. So what is collisional energy loss? It is just the ionizations and excitations which are caused by the incoming particle inside the absorbing medium. So the incoming heavy charged particle causes ionizations and excitations of the atoms of the absorbing medium due to the presence of its charge. Since the heavy charged particle, we are talking about a charged particle, so due to the Coulomb force, due to its Coulombic interaction, it will cause ionizations and excitations of the atoms of the absorbing medium, and similar thing happens in the case of electron and positron also. Because electron and positrons are also charged, therefore they will also cause collisional loss inside the absorbing medium. But this collisional loss is not the same as that of the heavy charged particle, and the reason we have already said that the electron and positrons, they are very light as compared to the heavy charged particles, so their motion inside the absorbing medium is a bit zigzag and it is not a straight line path. Therefore, we need to modify the Bethe-Bloch formula that we just derived in the previous lectures. So we need to change that formula. We need certain modifications. And what is the need of that modification? The first reason is that electron, or you can say the positron, has a very small mass. Therefore, the assumption that we made for heavy charged particle that it remains undeflected during the collisional process is not valid here. So the undeflected path of the heavy charged particle, this assumption that we made is not valid in the case of electron. Rather, in the case of electron, we have a zigzag motion inside the absorbing medium. And the another modification that we need to do in the case of electron and positron is that for the case of electrons, the collisions are between identical particles. As the electron enters an absorbing medium, it will interact with the orbital electrons of the atoms of the absorbing material. So there are atoms in the absorbing material and there are orbital electrons which are revolving around the nucleus of the atoms of the absorbing medium. So these electrons which are entering, they will interact with the orbital electrons, and here we have electron and an electron, means electron is interacting with another electron. So therefore, in the calculations, we must take into account their indistinguishability. So we need to take into account the indistinguishability of the incoming particles if we're talking about electrons, because the incoming particle interact with the orbital electrons. So in that case we must take into account their indistinguishability. That is, we need to consider the Pauli's exclusion principle. So in the case of heavy charged particle, this reason was not present because heavy charged particles are like proton, deuterons, alpha particles, which are composed of protons and neutrons, and they are very different from electrons. But if we're talking about the incoming electrons, if electron is entering an absorbing medium, so we need to take into account the indistinguishability, because here we will have identical particles. Electron will be interacting with the electron of the absorbing medium. So here we will have identical particles. So that thing should also be considered. But the derivation for the case of light charged particles is not in your syllabus. So we will just write the result, that the collisional energy loss in the case of light charged particle, that is minus dE by dx, is equal to 4 pi e power 4 capital N into Z divided by m naught v square into natural log of 1.16 m naught v square divided by 2 times I bar. So this is the formula of the collisional energy loss in the case of the light charged particles, where this capital N is the number of atoms which are present in unit volume of the absorbing medium. Then capital Z is the atomic number of the absorber, or you can say the absorbing medium, and m naught is the rest mass of the electron, and v is the velocity of the electron, the incident electron. And this I bar is the mean excitation energy of the orbital electrons of the absorber. So this is the mean excitation energy of the atomic electrons, or you can say the orbital electrons in the absorbing medium. So this is the case of the collisional energy loss in the case of electron or positron. So there are some modifications that need to be done in the Bethe-Bloch formula that we derived. Now in the case of stopping power, so this minus dE by dx, anywhere if you will get this term minus dE by dx, let's say it is in heavy charged particle, or if it is in the case of electron, minus dE by dx is nothing but the stopping power of the material. So this is also termed as stopping power of the material. But in actual practice, we talk about mass stopping power. So in the case of mass stopping power, we divide the stopping power. This stopping power is divided by the density of the absorbing medium. So the medium in which the particle is traveling, the incoming particle is traveling, the medium, it has a certain density. So we divide this stopping power by the density of the absorbing medium. So that is termed as mass stopping power. And why do we do so? This is done to eliminate the the density dependence. If we are dividing the stopping power by the density of the absorbing medium, in this particular thing we are actually eliminating the density dependence. So we are making the left hand side, or you can say we are making this equation, the equation of the stopping power, by dividing by the density of the absorbing medium. We are making this equation independent of the density of the absorbing medium. So in order to eliminate the density dependence, we express the rate of energy loss in terms of mass stopping power. So this is nothing but the linear stopping power, this stopping power divided by the density of the material. So this is the linear stopping power, and we divide it by the density. Let's say rho is the density of the absorbing medium, so we divide it by rho, which is the density. So this is termed as the mass stopping power, and it is usually expressed in, so density has some certain units, energy has some units, then here we have length, so it has some units, but usually the mass stopping power is expressed in mega electron volt, centimeter square, per gram. So this is the unit which is usually used to express the mass stopping power. So you can also find its SI units, like the energy is in joules, then dx is the length, it will be in meters, then rho is the density, mass per unit volume. So you can use the SI units, but it is actually usually expressed in mega electron volts. So this is the another unit for energy, mega electron volt centimeter square per gram. So this is the unit which is used in the case of mass stopping power. So we saw that the collisional energy loss in the case of electron and positron is very different from that of the heavy charged particle. Now there comes another big difference in the energy loss criteria for the case of light charged particles, and that is the radiation loss. In the case of electrons and positrons, that is in the case of the light charged particles, there comes another energy loss process, and that is the radiation loss. So this radiation loss is negligible in the case of heavy charged particles. So we do not talk about radiation loss when we are talking about heavy charged particles. So mainly there is collisional energy loss when we are talking about heavy charged particles. But in the case of light charged particles, the radiation loss phenomena cannot be neglected. So it contributes a lot in the energy loss process. Therefore, we talk about this radiation loss in the case of light charged particles. So what is this radiation loss? As we have said that electrons and positrons, they have very small mass as compared to heavy charged particles. They have very small mass. They are very light as compared to the heavy charged particles. So whenever, if we talk about an electron, so whenever this electron is traveling in an absorbing medium, so it will be encountering some nuclei in its path. So there will be nuclei of the absorbing medium. So this electron is traveling in an absorbing medium. So there are a lot of nuclei which are present. So here I am taking only one nucleus for this point of time. So when this electron is traveling with a certain velocity, it is traveling in this direction, and when it will come in the vicinity of this nucleus, so there will be a Coulombic attraction which will occur over here. So this electron will actually get deviated from its path. So when this electron is traveling in this direction, under the strong Coulombic force of attraction due to this nuclei, this electron will get deviated in its path. So if it is traveling in this direction with a certain velocity, then due to the attraction of this nuclei, its path will get deviated like this. So its path is deviated from a straight line motion. Now during this process, the electron will radiate EM radiations. So this electron will lose its energy in the form of EM radiations when its path has deviated due to the Coulombic attraction of the nuclei. Because of the small mass of the electron and positron, an additional energy loss mechanism comes into play, and that is called as the radiation loss. Now due to their small mass, the electron and positrons, they get scattered. So here also the electron is getting scattered. So the electron and positrons get scattered in the electric field of the nuclei. Electric field of the nuclei means the Coulombic force which is acting on the electron due to this nuclei of the absorbing medium. So there is electric field of this nuclei, of this nucleus, and due to the electric field, the path of the electron will get changed. So the electron and positrons, they get scattered in the electric field of the nucleus of the absorbing medium, means their path is deviated. And when its path gets deviated, in this process, the emission of electromagnetic radiation arises. So during this process, when its path is deviated, the EM radiations, the photons are emitted from here. So when its path is getting deviated, photons will be emitted in this process. So energy will be lost by the electrons. And this loss of energy in the form of EM radiations is termed as radiation loss, and these radiations are called as Bremmstrahlung radiations. These radiations, they have a specific name and they are called as Bremmstrahlung radiations, or they are also termed as breaking radiations. And why does this occur? Why EM radiations are emitted when the electron has changed its path? So the reason comes from the classical mechanics. Classically, this can be understood as the radiation arising from the radiation is emitted from the acceleration of the electron as it is deviated from its straight line course. As we study in classical mechanics, when an electron is moving in a circular path, means there is acceleration. So in that phenomena, when a charged particle moves in a circular path or it is accelerated, the particle will lose its energy in the form of radiations. The particle will be emitting EM radiations whenever it is moving in a circular path, or you can say when it is accelerated. So this is the reason why the electrons, they also lose their energy by emitting EM radiations, that is through the radiation loss. Now this radiation loss phenomena, this is not prominent when the energy is few mega electron volt or less. When the energy of the electron or positron is few mega electron volt or is less than mega electron volt, then this process is a relatively small factor. So this process is the energy loss due to the radiations, these Bremmstrahlung radiations. The energy loss is very less when the energy of the electron is about few mega electron volts or less than mega electron volt. So in that case, this energy loss is not dominating. But as the energy of the electron increases, as we increase the energy of the electron, and when it becomes comparable to, or it is few tenths of mega electron volt. So when the energy of the electron is around tenths of mega electron volt, like 10 mega electron volt or 20 mega electron volt. So in this range of energy, the loss of energy by the radiations quickly shoots up, and it is comparable to or greater than the collisional energy loss. So firstly, when the energy of the electron is just few mega electron volt or is less than few mega electron volts, in that case the radiation loss is negligible for the case of electron. But as the energy of the electron rises, as we increase the energy of the incoming electron, the radiation loss starts increasing. The loss of the energy due to the emission of radiations starts increasing as we increase the energy of the electron further. Now when the energy of the electron becomes, it is around tenths of mega electron volt, then the energy loss due to the radiations is comparable to the collisional loss. As we discussed, the electron or positron, they lose their energy by two processes. First is the collisional loss and second one is the radiation loss. So when the energy of the electron is not very high, that is it is around few mega electron volt or it is less than mega electron volt, in that case the collisional energy loss dominates and the radiation loss is negligible in that case. But as we increase the energy of the light charged particles further and the energy of the electron or positron is a few tenths of mega electron volt, then the radiation loss becomes comparable to the collisional energy loss. And if you increase the energy of electron further, then the radiation loss will start dominating over the collisional energy loss. And there is a particular energy of the incoming particle. There is a particular energy of the incoming particle for which the radiation loss becomes equal to that of the collisional loss. So as you are increasing, when the energy of the electron is a few mega electron volt or less, in that case collisional energy loss dominates. And if you start increasing the energy of the electron, then radiation loss also comes into picture. So it starts to come into picture, and there is one particular energy of the incoming particle when collisional loss becomes equal to the radiation loss, and that energy of the incoming particle is termed as critical energy. So that is termed as critical energy. So after the critical energy, and if you increase the energy of the electron further, that is greater than critical energy, when the energy of the incoming particle is greater than critical energy, in that case the Bremmstrahlung will dominate completely. So when the energy is exactly equal to the critical energy, in that case radiation loss is equal to the collisional energy loss. But after the critical energy, the Bremmstrahlung radiations, the energy loss due to the emission of radiation dominates completely. So in the case of light charged particles, the total energy loss is actually the summation of two energy losses. First is the collisional energy loss that we discussed. So the energy loss due to the collisions, and second is the radiations. So for the case of electron or positron, the total energy loss is actually a summation of two energy losses. So two processes contribute to the energy loss in the case of electrons or the positrons. So first is the collisional energy loss, and second is the radiation energy loss. So in the case of heavy charged particles, we have only the collisional energy loss. The mass of the heavy charged particles is very large, therefore the Bremmstrahlung radiations, or you can say the radiation loss, is negligible in the case of heavy charged particles. But this radiation loss comes into picture when we are talking about the light charged particles, and also when the energy of these light charged particles is about tens of mega electron volt. So only then this radiation loss starts coming into picture. In this diagram, I have shown the radiation loss. I have compared the radiation loss and the collision loss for the case of electron when we are taking copper as the absorbing medium. So on the x-axis, on this horizontal axis, I have the energy of the incoming particle, and that is in mega electron volts. And on the vertical axis, I have the energy loss dE by dx, and it is measured in mega electron volt centimeter square per gram. So this is the mass stopping power. So here I have energy of the incoming particle, and here I have the mass stopping power. Now I can see that for the case of electron, so this diagram is only for the case of electron. So when the energy of the incoming particle, the energy of the electron is increased. So when its energy is increased, you can see that the collisional loss first decreases and then it increases. So the similar thing is seen in the case of heavy charged particle also. That is, there is a decrease and then there is a small increase. So you might remember the diagram which we had drawn in the previous lectures for the case of heavy charged particles. So this is the collisional energy loss in the case of electron. So it decreases and then it increases by a little amount. On the other hand, I have shown the Bremmstrahlung loss, the radiation loss for the case of electron. And as you can see that this radiation loss, it comes into picture at about this energy. So at this energy, that is less than 10 mega electron volt, the radiation loss is very less. But as you start increasing the energy of the electron, the Bremmstrahlung loss starts dominating. So you can see that at this particular point, the collisional loss is exactly equal to the radiation loss. So here where we have intersection of the two curves, so this is where we will get the critical energy. So the energy which is corresponding to this point, that will be the critical energy. that is the energy of the incoming particle when the collisional loss is exactly equal to the radiation loss. So below the critical energy you can see that collisional loss dominates, and after the critical energy you can see that the radiation loss dominates. So as you increase the energy further, you can see that the radiation loss increases by a very large amount as compared to the collisional energy loss, which increases slightly. So you can see that after the critical energy, the radiation loss dominates over the collisional energy loss. So the actual curve, the net curve of the energy loss for the electron is shown over here with this green colored curve. So this will be the net energy loss for the case of electron. So you can see that below the critical energy we have the collisional energy loss, and after the critical energy the Bremmstrahlung radiation loss dominates. So this Bremmstrahlung cross section, the probability of the energy loss by the emission of radiations, that probability is inversely proportional to the square of the mass of the incoming particle. So Bremmstrahlung cross section is directly proportional to 1 by m square, or you can say it is inversely proportional to square of the mass of the incoming particle. So it is inverse square of particle's mass. So for the case of heavy charged particle, the mass of the heavy charged particle is very large as compared to electrons and positrons. Therefore, in that case, the cross section of the Bremmstrahlung loss is very less, and you can say it is negligible. Now, if you talk about muons, the mass of muon is about 200 times that of the electron. So muon is the next heavy particle after the electron. The mass of the muon is 200 times that of the electron. So if mass of muon is 200 times, then the radiation loss by muons will be 1 divided by 200 square, that is 1 divided by 40,000 times that of the electron. So the radiation loss cross section by the muons will be 1 by 40,000 times that of the case of electrons. So as we have said in the previous page also, we have talked about the critical energy. So the critical energy is the energy at which the radiation loss becomes exactly equal to the collisional loss. So the energy loss due to the radiations is equal to energy loss due to the collisions, means the excitations and the ionizations. So these two energy losses are equal when E is equal to EC. EC is nothing but the critical energy. So when the energy of the incoming particle is equal to the critical energy, then the radiation loss is equal to the collisional loss. Now for the case of lead, when we have lead as the absorbing medium, then critical energy is 9.51 mega electron volt. And if we have water as the absorbing medium, the critical energy is very large, and that is 92 mega electron volt. Now the ratio of the collisional energy loss, the radiation energy loss and the collisional energy loss, it comes out to be around E into Z divided by 800. So Z is the atomic number of the absorber and E is the energy of the incoming particle taken in mega electron volts. So actually the ratio of radiation loss and the collisional loss is equal to this factor. And this we have written when the energy of the incoming particle is equal to the critical energy. In that case, these two losses become equal. They become exactly equal. But in actual, when the energy is not equal to critical energy, in that case generally the ratio of radiation loss and the collisional loss is equal to E into Z divided by 800, where Z is the atomic number of the absorber, E is the energy of the incoming particle taken in mega electron volts. So let's say if you have 8 mega electron volt energy electron entering in an absorbing medium. So the energy value that you will put in this formula will be just equal to 8. So if energy is equal to 8 mega electron volt, you will just put energy as 8 over here in this fraction, and you will not convert it into SI units. So this formula that we have written, in this case this energy is already taken in mega electron volts. And from this formula you can find the expression of EC. Now EC is the critical energy. Now when the energy of the incoming particle is equal to EC, then the radiation loss is exactly equal to the collisional loss. Means this ratio must be equal to 1 when E is equal to EC. So when E is equal to EC, here you will put, instead of E you will insert EC. So when E is equal to EC, then this ratio on the left hand side will become exactly equal to 1. And when you will solve the equation, you will get EC approximately equal to 800 divided by Z. So this is the formula of the critical energy of the incoming light charged particle. Now we have another term, and that is the radiation length. As we have discussed that the light charged particles, means the electron and the positrons, they lose their energy through two phenomena. First is the collisional energy loss and another is the radiation loss. So in the case of radiation loss, we talk about radiation length, and this is the distance over which, so distance in the absorbing medium, over which the electron's energy is reduced by a factor of 1 by E. So it is reduced by a factor of 1 by E of its initial energy value due to the radiation loss only. So in the case of electron, we have collisional energy loss as well as we have the radiation loss. But in the case of radiation length, we take only the radiation loss into account. So it is the distance in the absorbing medium over which the electron's energy is reduced by a factor of 1 by E due to the radiation loss only. So only due to the radiation loss, the distance over which the energy is reduced by a factor of 1 by E of the electron. That distance in the absorbing medium is termed as the radiation length. So here we take into account only the radiation loss. So the radiation length for the case of water is around 36.1 centimeters, and for the case of lead it is just 0.56 centimeters. So this is the radiation loss, and the radiation loss or the Bremmstrahlung loss has linear dependence on the energy of the incoming particle, and that we have already seen in the previous graph that we had drawn. So we had drawn a straight line. So where we had drawn the energy loss versus the energy of the incoming particle. So there we had drawn a collisional energy loss as well as we had drawn the radiation loss, and we can see that the radiation loss is a straight line, means the radiation loss has linear dependence on energy. As you increase the energy, the radiation loss will also increase. The next we have the interaction of a positron. So there is another thing that comes into picture if we are talking about a positron. So when the positron loses energy in the medium, when the positron is traveling in the medium and it loses its energy and is nearly at rest. So when a particle is traveling in any absorbing medium, so when it is traveling in any absorbing medium, it will lose its energy continuously to the atoms of the absorbing medium. So it will lose its energy. So when it will lose its energy, its velocity will decrease. So that's obvious, its velocity should decrease. And at a particular point, it will come to at rest. So here we are talking about a positron. So when positron loses energy in the medium, as it is traveling, it will lose energy. And when it is nearly at rest, so when it is nearly at rest, it interacts with the orbital electron. So when it is nearly at rest, it will interact with the orbital electrons of the atoms of the absorbing medium, such that the positron and electron pair, or you can say electron and positron pair, disappears. So when this positron becomes nearly at rest in the absorbing medium, it will interact with one of the orbital electrons and it will annihilate with the electron or the orbital electron of the atom. So the positron and electron pair disappears. So there is annihilation. So this positron, when it is almost at rest, it will interact with the orbital electron and it will disappear. The electron positron pair will disappear, and in this process, when the electron and positron pair disappears, 2 gamma photons of energy 2mec square each are emitted in opposite directions. So as we have said that positron, it pairs up with the electron and this electron positron pair disappears. So we know that the matter cannot be created, it cannot be destroyed. So if these electron positron pairs are disappearing, means they are getting converted into something else. And what it will be? It will be energy. So when the electron and positron pair disappears, means there will be release in the form of energy. The mass will be released in the form of energy, and in this case 2 gamma photons are released. And what will be the energy of these 2 gamma photons? According to the law of conservation of energy, energy of the system must remain the same. So in this case also, here initially we had electron and positron. So electron positron pair disappears and instead we have 2 gamma photons emitted. Now when the electron and positron disappears, now what is the mass of the electron? The rest mass of the electron is, or you can say rest mass energy of the electron. If we talk about rest mass energy, the rest mass energy of the electron is 0.511 mega electron volt. Similarly, the positron, which is an antiparticle of electron, it also has the same rest mass energy. So when the electron and positron pair is disappearing, so when it disappears, the same amount of energy must be present. So the initial energy was 0.511 mega electron volt plus 0.511 mega electron volt. So the rest mass energy of electron was 0.511 and positron is also 0.511. So the initial energy is 0.511 plus 0.511, or you can say this energy is written in the form of MEC square. So MEC square is the rest mass energy of electron, and the same is for the case of positron. So MEC square is the rest mass energy for the case of positron also. Now the initial energy, the electron and positron, what is the energy of the system? That is equal to MEC square plus MEC square. So there is no kinetic energy because we are talking about positron when it becomes nearly at rest. So the rest mass energy, total rest mass energy will be MEC square plus MEC square, that is twice of MEC square. So that will be the initial energy of this system. And we are saying that when the electron positron pair disappears, there is emission of 2 gamma photons. 2 gamma photons are emitted. Now what will be the energy of these 2 gamma photons? The energy of each gamma photon will be exactly equal to MEC square. Sorry, here it will be just MEC square. The combined energy will be twice of MEC square, but here we are talking about 1 gamma photon. So each gamma photon will have energy MEC square. So here we have positron, which is going to be at rest, and when it is almost at rest, it will pair up with the orbital electron, and this electron positron pair will disappear, and in this process when they will disappear we will have two gamma photons which are emitted, and each gamma photon will have energy 0.511 and 0.511 mega electron volt. Now here, why these two gamma photons are emitted in the opposite direction? So the reason is the law of conservation of momentum. So the law of conservation of momentum states that the initial and the final momentum must be exactly the same. So initial momentum is equal to 0 in this case because positron is going to be at rest. So the initial momentum is equal to 0, and the momentum in the second case also must be equal to 0. So these two photons which are emitted, they are emitted in the opposite directions. So they are exactly emitted in the opposite directions. So MEC square is the energy of each gamma photon, and they are emitted in the opposite direction. So there is another phenomena. So this is the another phenomena which occurs in the case of positron only, because positron, it pairs up with the electron, and after that this pair annihilates, it disappears, and after that two gamma photons, in this process two gamma photons are emitted of energy 0.511 mega electron volt each.